Hello, and thank you for watching our inaugural video, our inaugural podcast. And I want to say a very special thank you to all you clients and all you squippers that are tuning in. And for those of you who are old enough, you may remember the dating game when they had the big mwah, and that's what I want to give you for tuning in. Thank you. I also want to encourage you to subscribe to this, so please do. The launch of this, all podcasts and videos, the more subscribers we have, the more it gains traction, and with your help, we can do that. Please stay tuned. We're going to start the video now. Hello, everybody. This is a very special video that we are putting together for you because I want to tell you two stories that blew my mind away and I think are going to blow your mind with regard to what's happened to a couple of our clients. This is such a crazy story.
It is nuts. He went to his bookmark. It wasn't like he typed in and was a redirect. He had a bookmark saved.
The technology that it took to do that, although probably for them it's easy, but places everybody.
Exactly. He got a whole new computer out of it.
Now, what you know is that we always want to protect you from harm. We talk about how we want to protect you from bear markets. We want your money to last as long as you do. That's our mission. We want you to enjoy your second childhood. All of those things are what we want. And one of the biggest threats that we're seeing right now are scams. And people who essentially convince you to give them your money. And that could actually be even worse than inflation, taxes, and bear markets, which are the three major financial enemies that we want to mitigate or defeat. So I've got two stories that I want to tell you, and I've got a guest here who will help me to tell the second story. But the first story happened with a client that I was visiting with, and we were having our normal planning meetings. And as you guys know, whenever we have a planning meeting, we ask you to bring, the information about all of the accounts that you have, regardless of where they are. And so we started the meeting as we always do. So you have these accounts elsewhere, and how much do you have in that account? And so I had how much was in that account from the last time we met. And so I said, is that number still correct? And I got crickets. And I said, okay, is there something wrong here? And she goes, well, Ken, as a matter of fact, that account is $800,000 less. And I said, $800,000 less? What did you do? Did you buy something? What did you do with that $800,000? And she proceeded to tell me a story of how she got scammed. And basically what she had done, and it's a couple, but she's the CFO of the family, is they had decided that they didn't want to put all their eggs in one basket per se. So they had half their money not with us and with another company, and then half their money with us. And so that's why I was always asking her about, the other money that she had elsewhere. And out of that, $800,000 was gone. And when she told me the story of what happened, I was like, wow, that is the most incredible story I've ever heard. Well, about the same time, I found out that the exact same thing was happening to another client. It is the most sophisticated scam I have ever seen. And that's what's so scary about it, is that it is so sophisticated that when you hear this, you're going to say, I bet I would have been taken by it as well. So I want to bring Shawn Stone into the story here. Shawn is a retirement planner. And Shawn, so tell us about our client Jeffrey, who he called you out of the blue and said what?
So on a Wednesday morning, getting ready for our weekly meeting, and about 10:50 in the morning, I'm going 10 minutes, got to be downstairs for our meeting, and I get a call, and this is a gentleman who not really a lot of urgency to some of the phone calls, and he called with extreme urgency and said, I'm going to be there in 15 minutes. I need to talk. And I was a little taken aback by it and said, okay, I'll be here. Let's talk. And so He gets here maybe 8 minutes after that call. I go downstairs. And
so wait, he must have been in his car when he called you then. I mean, how did he show up so fast?
He had to be. He lives further than that away. I know that. So either he was in the car or he was here in lightning speed. And so, so I go downstairs, greet him, and he's got a very serious look on his face. And he goes, "Shawn, I think I might have messed up." And I went, "Well, let's go upstairs. Let's talk about this. Let's see what's going on." And we sat down at my desk, and he proceeds to tell me one of the most mind-blowing scam fraud stories that I have ever heard. And he has a just envelope full of documents, and he places it on my desk, and he said, "I think I'm getting scammed."
Okay. And so you said, "Tell me more." And so I'm going to get into the story in a minute.
Yeah.
But so at this point, he tells you the whole story, right?
He tells me the whole story of how that day he was set to go deliver between $800,000 and $850,000 of his hard-earned money.
This was like his entire net worth, practically, right?
This was a very large percentage of it. It would have decimated their retirement.
Wiped him out.
It would have decimated their retirement picture. It would have been more than life-changing.
And so when he told you the story, you looked at him and you said, "Jeffrey, this is not real."
It took about 45 seconds of reading the documents to look at this and what he had said to say, "Jeffrey, I'm so glad you got here before you went to deliver these funds, because this isn't real." And you saw him kind of, you saw the
He knew it, right? I mean,
go.
there was a part of him that thought this is a scam.
The weeks that he had dealt with this, he kept getting that feeling, but then to have it put in front of somebody else's eyes, he got that confirmation that this is not real.
So I want to share with you the story of Jeffrey, because it's number one, it's educational, because if this happens to you, I want you to be aware, right? In French, there's an expression that says, "Un homme averti en vaut deux." A man who is forewarned is worth two. And I guess it applies to women as well. So I have here what happened. So Jeffrey went onto his account he had a small brokerage account, and he went onto that account. And when he did, a security notice popped up on his computer screen, and it said that there's a login problem and that he needed to call this 800 number. So he goes, okay. So he calls the number, and he gets Amy Lewis. Okay, and Amy Lewis, she says that she's with the fraud division, and this is with a very large brokerage house, one of the largest in the country. And she says she's with the fraud division, and she says that she identifies the issue with Jeffrey's account, and she says, "I need to test." She goes, "You have an account at your bank also, we see here, and so I want to test this. And so I'm going to send a deposit to your bank account, and then I want to see if it goes through." So Jeffrey says, okay. So Amy then apparently sends this deposit for $2. He goes into the account, and the $2 is not there. So he tells her. So she goes, okay, well, it sounds like you have a fraud problem at your bank as well. So Shawn, here's, this reminds me, if you've seen the movie Ocean's 11, where they have all the characters and they all have phone numbers and they're all sitting around at the coffee table, with the potato chips, and the phone goes off and they go, wait a second, I got to be the IRS guy right now, hang on. And they answer the phone. This is what's happening. So anyway, so she gives him the number for the fraud alert at the bank. Well, if somebody gives you a number to call, guess whose number they're giving you to call, Shawn? What do you think?
Well, unfortunately, it was the guy sitting on the other side of the desk.
That's right. I'm laughing. It's not funny. So she goes, the deposit failed, so she escalates it, and she says that we need to have you talk to our senior fraud person here at our brokerage house. His name is David Miller. So David Miller, then he calls David Miller. So now he talks to David Miller, and David Miller says, Jeffrey, there are two suspicious accounts, transactions that occurred in your bank account. And what were they?
There were, I believe, 2 for Amazon.
Yeah.
And they said they were able to successfully block those.
Yes.
And they were for smaller amounts than the one we're about to get to.
Yeah.
But they made them feel at peace that we were able to save some of this money.
The 2 Amazons, which were like $1,000 each or something.
Right. Like they were like $800 and $1,100. So
Right.
they were able to save those and protect you. But
what was the big one?
a large charge for pornography in China.
$11,000
$11,000
to a child pornography ring in China.
out of China.
Out
and
of
they
China.
said we could not block it because it's out of China.
It's out of China. We got problems with time zones and all that. So what David Miller says is we need to escalate this to the IRS and the Federal Trade Commission.
Yes.
So, folks, I'm not laughing at Jeffrey. I'm just laughing at the sophistication of all of this, right? So the next step is they say that we need you to now talk to the IRS and the Federal Trade Commission. So they send him to Stephen Luth. All right, and Stephen Luth is the IRS agent who's been assigned to this case now.
The IRS fraud agent, and they even send them a picture of his badge.
Oh, that's right. They have a picture of the fraudulent IRS agent's badge with a number and everything.
Yeah.
And it looks very official. I mean, they get a letter from the IRS, right? They get it gets emailed to them that says it's a fraud case, IRS, the whole deal.
I believe it was emailed. They also, in the midst of this, were able to get into their computer and they would tell them, go to your computer, and they would take over the computer and start putting documents up on the screen and printing them off for them. That's how Jeffrey had copies of everything, was they were getting it, and that's how they showed the badge. And we had a little chuckle about it because the IRS, he was like an upper level fraud agent was how it was titled. But this guy was smiling way too hard to be an IRS fraud
IRS
agent.
agents don't smile.
And if they do, it's not that big of a smile, I can promise.
So, Stephen Luth, now, okay, the IRS guy, says to Jeffrey, this is a very serious problem.
Yes.
Because this is a child pornography ring, and right now, Jeffrey, you are a suspect. Okay, we don't know whether you've actually been defrauded or whether you are involved with this child pornography ring.
Yes.
So now Jeffrey is like freaking out because he thinks he's going to get arrested for being part of a child porn ring out of China.
Yes. It goes from him having fraud to him possibly being a suspect in a child pornography case with Chinese websites.
So here's how they now start. So now you have to put yourself in Jeffrey's mind. He can't get into his account. He's been referred to the IRS. He's been referred to the senior fraud guy at his brokerage house. Yes. He's had a deposit to the bank that didn't go through. He's talked to them. So it all seems very legit at this point, right? So now, this is now how they start to get the money. So what happens now is that Stephen Luth, the IRS guy, tells Jeffrey that he needs to transfer the $11,000 into a quote-unquote safety locker.
Yes.
Via an Athena machine. What the heck is an Athena machine?
They were having them send, it was essentially a Bitcoin machine.
Bitcoin.
A Bitcoin machine, I believe, if I remember correctly, it was at a pawn shop. They were having him go to...
So he drove to the pawn shop.
Yes.
Because why did they say why does the IRS need to be paid in Bitcoin?
Well, they don't.
Well, I mean, what was
their excuse for this was that they need to have the money secured and they need to have it sent to them so they can put it in a tangible asset such as gold.
Okay.
So they're going to convert it from $1 to Bitcoin to gold.
To gold. Now, you're probably saying I would never fall for this, but the other client that I talked to did. And let me tell you, I've known her for many, many years. She is a smart person. She's a retired businesswoman. She knows she's not a dumb person. And neither is Jeffrey.
Not at all.
Jeffrey is tight as a drum, and he's a smart guy. I think he's a former engineer.
Yes.
I mean, these are not people that you're thinking they're naive and they get taken left and right. No, these are smart people. So don't don't think, oh, I would never get caught by that. The trauma and the stress of I'm going to get arrested in a porn ring, that my account has been, all this stuff. All right, so the next thing that happens is that Jeff actually goes and withdraws the cash, and he takes it down to the Bitcoin machine at the pawn shop.
He does.
Okay. And and they told him that they needed to secure the $11,000 so as to, what's the...
There really wasn't a definitive reason as to why they needed to secure it. But I think that really played into Jeffrey's anxiety and stress and level of concern that if an IRS agent's telling me I need to do this, then I need to do this.
Didn't they also say we can't secure your money anymore unless you put it into this?
Correct. We can't guarantee you will be secured with your funds unless you do this for us.
So the next step in this whole scam is that Stephen, again, the IRS guy, reports further fraudulent activities, and so he tells Jeffrey that he needs to change his Social Security number and move all of his money to the safety of the federal government so that the rest of his money doesn't get scammed.
Exactly.
So now they give him the information to go to the Social Security site. Tell me about that part.
So they give him the information, give him the actual forms from the Social Security Administration for he and his spouse to go change all of their information, wanting them to list every possible thing about their their address, date of birth, Social Security number, everything. They give them the forms and say, we need you to fill this out so we can properly protect you even further.
So when they sent him the email that said, here are the forms, when he opened that, basically he gave them access to his computer. So now they were controlling his computer.
It was, that was one piece that we had not figured out. It was either through the email or it could have been through his modem or router. Because some of these fraudsters, if you have kind of an open, unsecure network, they can get in and they can effectively control anything connected on that Wi-Fi network. And so that was a possibility as well.
But at this point, they're controlling his computer because they're bringing up forms for him to see. And in fact, they actually said, we'll print it for you.
They told him to go to his computer because we're in here and we will show you these things.
And so Jeffrey's like, he told me he's seeing his cursor moving around the screen and he's not doing anything. They're doing it for him.
They're doing it for him. And
so they print out these Social Security forms that look real.
Yeah.
They ask him to fill it all out and then upload it.
Yes.
So now they have everything.
They can get everything from them. Yes, sir.
All right. So the next step in this whole thing is he gets Ed Fulton now gets involved. So Ed Fulton is another character in our drama, and he's the chief investigator with the IRS.
Yes.
And Ed Fulton says that here's where they got the 11,000.
Yes.
Right. He got the Bitcoin, and he sent. So they got the 11,000. Now they're after the big account, which is
correct
with us.
Yes, sir.
So now they want the 700,000.
They've said numbers between 8 to 850, and they wanted to secure that money.
So we got to secure that because it's all going to get stolen from you unless you put it under the safety of the federal government, right, with the IRS. Okay, so Jeffrey at this point is freaking out, right?
Absolutely.
And so he says, okay, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? And so basically they tell him to do the same thing again, right? To go down to the Bitcoin machine. So that's where he calls you.
Yes.
Right? Because now he says, I'm feeling really nervous about all this stuff because I'm about to go put 700,000 into a Bitcoin machine at a pawn shop.
Yes.
I mean, like I said, it sounds insane, but if you're in the middle of all of that under so much stress, well, fortunately, what happened?
Fortunately, he made his way down here, and I think the thing that really gave him the confidence to know this wasn't real was they called him 8 or 9 times in the short drive from his home to our office. And
they knew something was up and that the scam was going bad.
Because he hadn't arrived to upload and give the money at the time they said. So they are putting the pressure on him. So he arrives, we go through the documents, we look at everything, and we'll get to some of the points of what we're able to look at and identify. But I was just so glad that he gave me a call to say, hey, I want you to look at this. I need some help. And we sat down, looked at things, and it was no time at all. And we were all able to come to the consensus really quickly. This is fraud, unfortunately. And thankfully, he did not give.
So he was in his car driving to the Bitcoin machine, and something said, I need to talk to Shawn first. And he called you.
And I got the urgent call of, I'll be there in 15 minutes.
Oh, my. Wow. Wow. So think about the sophistication of this. They took over his computer. They put a mask. It's called putting a mask on your computer. So what a mask does is when you type in a certain website, it takes you to a website that looks real. It looks like the IRS website. It looks like the Social Security website. It looks like the Federal Trade Commission's website. It even looks like your brokerage account website. But it's not, because what happens is it's the one they put on your screen. So it's a mask. And whatever you type in there, it takes you to where they want you to go, not where you thought you were going. And so that's why this thing is so sophisticated. The technology it takes to do that is remarkable. And then to have all these phone numbers, I didn't go into all the stuff, in as much detail, but every single player had a phone number dedicated to them. Now, I imagine, like Ocean's 11, they all have the cell phones on the sofa, and they just pick up the one that's ringing. But they had phone numbers for everybody. They had badge numbers. They had pictures of their IDs. I mean, this is incredibly sophisticated, and that's what makes it so scary, is that it's so easy, I think, for the average person to fall for that. I don't, I like to think that I wouldn't, as a spectator of all this, and thinking, I would never fall for that. I'm too smart. But you know what? You get accused of, the people are going to arrest you tomorrow for a porn ring? What? Okay. So, what are some of the things that people should look out for, Shawn, to give them a heads up that they need to call their retirement planner before they progress any further?
I think this is an overreaching statement for anyone with fraud. The IRS is not going to call you.
Okay.
They are going to send you a letter in the mail. And I think a lot of fraud things and fraudulent attempts that we have seen in the past start with a phone call, a text message, something of that nature. And they're not going to call you. They're going to send you a letter in the mail, as the IRS does. And I think that's probably one of the first places to really start, is they're going to send you an official letter. But they're not going to ask you to verify all this incredibly personal information. They already know it. They already know your information. Why are they going to have you verify this stuff? No, Ken, I'm giving you a call. Go ahead and tell me what that Social Security number is, sir. No, they know this information. Mm-hmm. And in the letters, in all of the letters, because there were numerous from the FTC.
Oh yeah,
everywhere.
The file was this thick with all. He printed everything out for us to see. It's this thick. There's so much stuff.
It was massive, and when you look and start going through the headers, the logos, everything's official. Mm-hmm. I believe it was the FTC chairperson was listed on there, and if you Google, it was actually that person. That person pops up on Google. That is who they are, and mm-hmm. this was their name. They didn't have their email address or phone number next to it, of course. But if you go to the FTC's website, this was that person. Yeah. Yeah. And there were minor misspellings. And that's something that I think people will say, oh, well, I would notice that. And I think they would discount the fact of the stress and anxiety that they would be under in that moment. But for myself, when he puts it in front of me on page 3, I go, okay, well, there's a minor misspelling here. They misspelled this custodian's name by 2 letters, and there was a transposition here. There's little pieces mm-hmm. in here, but if you're kind of in the depths of that fire, you may not notice near as much.
Yeah. I think, if they threaten you, for example, they told you, that you're going to be arrested for being a member of a child porn ring, obviously that's designed to scare you, to get you yes. off your game emotionally. If they're secretive. Oh, yeah, they also told him, you better not talk to anybody about this, yes. right?
And that's why I believe the first time I was hearing of it is the day he was set to deliver those funds.
One of those people, the IRS guy or the Social Security person, somebody said, if you talk about this with anybody, then the bad guys are going to find out.
Yes.
And then, the whole thing will be off, and we can't help you because blah, blah, blah.
We can't protect you.
Right. And so anybody, it's like what I used to tell my daughters. Anybody tells you don't talk to your parents, immediately come and talk to me about it, okay? First thing you're going to do is talk to me. So anybody tells you do not talk to anybody about this, the first thing you do is you call us, okay? And, we can talk about all these different things that you can look out for, but the most important, as I look at artificial intelligence and I look at technology and how sophisticated it's becoming, the best defense is going to become a face-to-face talk with a human being. Right now, for example, they have technology that can create a voice that is exactly the sound of your daughter saying, "I need money." Well, what we've done in our family, for example, is we have a secret word. So if any of my daughters call me and says, "I need money," and it sounds just like her, and it's her phone number calling me, my question is, what's the secret word? Okay, so that human thing is the antidote to all this technology. And, our whole philosophy of doing business is that we don't want to be digital. We don't want to be, an 800 number or an AI. We want the human-to-human interaction with you. And that is, in our view, the ultimate defense. If you ever feel that somebody's pressuring you, stressing you, pushing you, doing something, and your spidey sense is tingling even a little bit, just a little bit, call us, okay? We're rational. We're not emotional like you are because you're being accused of being in a porn ring, and hopefully, we can help you to avoid that. So, I wanted to share this with you. Thank you, Shawn, for what you did and for sharing the story with us. By the way, Jeffrey is not his real name, just so you know. We changed the name to protect the innocent. But I wanted to make you aware of how sophisticated and what a danger this is. In the case of Jeffrey, it would have wiped him out. He would have had nothing left. And the tragedy of that is so enormous, it just breaks my heart. So please call us. We're here to help you and to make sure that, to the extent we can, that you don't get scammed. So thanks for watching this video, and we will talk soon.